he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore his arm brought salvation to him, and his righteousness, it sustained him. For he put on righteousness as a breastplate, and a helmet of salvation on his head. And he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and was clad with zeal as a cloak. According to their deeds will he repay fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. To the islands he will repay recompense, so shall they fear the name of the Lord. From the west in his glory, from the rising of the sun.
Hey, good morning, good Monday. I don't hate Mondays because I like to start my week with a study on Monday. And so let's begin by reading here our chapter. Let's start from verse 1 again. We're in Amos chapter 5. We'll pick it up at verse 9, but let's take in the context. Hear ye this word which I take up against you, even a lamentation, O house of Israel. The virgin of Israel is fallen, she shall no more rise. She is forsaken upon her land. There is none to raise her up. For thus saith the Lord God, the city that went out by 1,000 shall leave 100, and that which went forth by 100 shall leave 10 to the house of Israel. For thus saith the Lord unto the house of Israel, seek ye me, and ye shall live, but seek not Bethel. Nor enter into Gilgal, and pass not to Beersheba, for Gilgal shall surely go into captivity, and Bethel shall come to naught. Seek the Lord, and ye shall live, lest he break out like fire in the house of Joseph, and devour it, and there be none to quench it in Bethel. Ye who turn judgment to wormwood, and leave off righteousness in the earth. I gotta pause 1 second. Okay. All right, whatever. I just realized my hair's kind of wild today. All right. Go well with the reading, right? Righteousness in the earth. There we are. Verse 8. Seek him that maketh the 7 stars in Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the day dark with night, that calleth the waters of the sea, that calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name, that strengtheneth the spoiled against the strong, so that the spoiled shall come against the fortress. They hate him that rebuketh in the gates, and they abhor him that speaketh uprightly. Forasmuch therefore as your treading is upon the poor, and ye take from him burdens of wheat, ye have built houses of hewn stone, but ye shall not dwell in them. Ye have planted pleasant vineyards, but ye shall not drink wine of them. For I know your manifold transgressions and your mighty sins. They afflict the just, and they take a bribe, and they turn aside the poor in the gate from their right. Therefore the prudent shall keep silent in that time. Therefore the prudent shall keep silence in that time, for it is an evil time. Seek good and not evil, that ye may live. And so the Lord of hosts, shall be with you as ye have spoken. Hate the evil, and love the good, and establish judgment in the gate. It may be that the Lord of hosts will be gracious unto the remnant of Joseph. Therefore, the Lord, the God of hosts, the Lord saith thus, wailing shall be in all streets, and they shall say in all the highways, alas, alas, and they shall call the husbandmen to mourning, and such as are skillful in lamentation to wailing. And in all vineyards shall be wailing, for I will pass through thee, saith the Lord. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord! To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light, as if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house, and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark, and no brightness in it? I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols. But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and hewn your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. Therefore will I cause you to go into captivity beyond Damascus, saith the Lord, whose name is the God of hosts. That's a fun read. Every time I read that, I feel like I get on a roller coaster with the Spirit of the Lord, and it's literally like just, hearing the Spirit of the Lord speak. I mean, could he be more... That's the beautiful thing about the written... because, here's the thing. We have feelings and thoughts and, all these things, but, when someone really connects with the Lord and the Word speaks, you can feel it. I mean, as far as, what was written here is inspired by God. And like I said, when you have the Spirit... and you're familiar with the things, or even if you don't have the Spirit, if you are familiar with the things the Spirit has spoken. Because even before I received the Spirit of God, I had this sense, as I told people, when you read the books that aren't included in the Bible, the majority, and almost, actually all of them, to me had this inauthentic feeling. I just felt the inauthenticity, And that's just how one of my number one things, and I always feel like that's kind of how the Bible got built. Is that men filled with the Spirit felt the authenticity or lack thereof of that which did not belong. Because there is a certain spirit, and it speaks to the heart of every man if they will hear, only if they have ears to hear it, I should say. It's not like if you will hear it. I mean, yes, if you will hear it, if you can. Just, why did God, God made deaf and blind people so we can understand that not everybody sees, not everybody hears. And that goes deeper than just the quality of hearing sound. I said they have their own trade-offs. Everyone's got trade-offs. I said the most richest, well-born man, oh, woe unto him for all he's responsible for all the troubles how hard is it for a rich man to enter into the kingdom? It's not if someone in my position finds it quite a struggle. I mean, in a sense of I labor to enter into his rest. I said I know I'm saved, but that's not the point. It's like he saved me with his blood and all that. I want to do my best for him, right? Do my best for Jesus. He did his best for me. And I know my best is not good enough to save me, but that's not the point. I'm not trying to save me. I'm trying to please him. And that's exactly how you should be as a Christian. And if you're not, to the degree that you are slothful in that, you become something quite odious to God. Yeah, I mean, if we completely are negligent of our duty to the Lord, especially when we leave off to do righteousness and the things that he says. God strengthens the spoiled. I tell you what, I'm a spoiled man. And I don't mean in the sense of like a spoiled brat. I mean in the sense of someone who has had himself had his pockets picked, not literally, but metaphorically. I've had my pockets picked not by the little guy, not by the guy in the street, by the big guy. My pockets get picked by the big guys. I've been, I don't want to get vulgar, and deceivers. And I think it's kind of I feel bad for them for having done something to me. So something pretty awful has befallen me. But in a sense, it energizes me because in a sense, I'm like, well, There was a question there. There was a stress there. But now I know the answer. I know where my enemy is, and I know where to fire my cannons, so to speak, metaphorically, so people understand. I wish I had a cannon. So that before, it's like I think I need. We need. I think I should be able to own a tank. Yes, that's what the Second Amendment's all about. A well-regulated militia. I'm not well-regulated at all. I don't got any of this stuff we need to fight a modern war. Anyways. All right, let's see. But, those, I just said identify with that weakness. That even, how should one chase 1,000 or two put 10,000 to flight, except the Lord had bought them and the Lord had sold them out? The enemy. And also it can happen to us, too. We had the inverse of that. We're explained. City went out 100 is going to come back by 10. Or come out by 10. The city that sent 100 men out for war are going to send 10 into captivity. Those are the survivors. I think that was the gist of that. That the weakness can come against the strong. Out of the strong came forth sweet. Out of the eater came forth meat. What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? But those that are, the enemy, has caused, to suffer. God sees our suffering and he strengthens us against the enemy. And so that even the enemy's mighty fortress, when a man, is strengthened by God, there's no fortress on earth that can keep him back or out. I will breach your fortress and I will take your spoil. We'll take the spoil back. They've taken our country from us. God will strengthen us, and we will take it back from them. We will come against their fortresses and tear them down. Their strongholds, their principalities, the things they rely on to perpetuate wicked power. They hate them that rebuketh in the gate. They hate free speech. That's why they're trying to come against it with everything they got. And that's why when I see that, like when they start saying, words are violence, I don't shy away from that. I lean into that. Yeah, they are. It's the lawful way of waging war against each other. That's why we have freedom of speech. From time immemorial, the Christian idea of speech and words is identified with the sword, with violence. Because the rebuke of the wise is violence against the wicked. Because as the people hear, they start grumbling and they say, what are with these men ruling over us? What are these irresponsible, wicked people doing who are supposed to be caring after the nation? And they become terrified because the words of truth will bring violence down on their heads because they will be held accountable. They fear the violence of those words, that those words might cause people to get violent. Yeah, because you've been breaking the law, because you're taking a bribe. You've been treading on the poor. You ought to be afraid. You got much more to be afraid of than people taking their country back. You've got God breathing down your neck. He's watching you. His eyes are on you. His eyes are on all. And they hate to hear that rebuke in the gate. Oh, they don't want to hear that rebuke. What you're doing's wrong. You're bringing death and destruction upon the nation. And they hate people that speak uprightly. They don't like uprightness. You fuddy-duddy. What's wrong with taking a bribe? What's wrong with seeing prostitutes? Think about what percentage do you suppose of congressmen and senators see prostitutes on a regular basis? Washington, D.C. is a huge hub of prostitution. Why are those guys all so captive to certain interests? They are prostitutions. Joe Biden even said it himself. He wanted to prostitute himself in the metaphorical sense. But they also love it in the literal sense. That's what it's all about. They're irresponsible. They don't know what they're doing. They're just there reaping the rewards and, trying to live the life of debauched pleasure that I thought I wanted to live when I was a young man. And off they go. But God was merciful to me and revealed my death from a young age. I had the shadow of death hanging over me. And it's passed over me many times. I've stared the death angel in the face. More than once. But, we all gotta die. So you better speak uprightly, or you'll never stand in the resurrection. You better not. Notice they hate him that rebuketh in the gate. There's something about hate down here we get, right? Remember? Hate the evil, love the good. Hate is something that people have forgotten about as being important. Because we got this absurd idea, love, hate, bad, love good, hate bad. No. Love and hate are both essential parts. It's like saying a coin, heads good, tails bad. What's that? That doesn't mean anything. Or tails good, heads bad. I mean, they're the same thing. The existence of love always creates the potential for hate. And that potential for hate is a real thing. You know what I mean? The potential for evil. We have the knowledge of good and evil. So that means we have to have in order to exist for eternity with God in a perpetual state of righteousness and uprightness and holiness in the world to come, you will have to forever and ever hate evil so much that it never enters into our existence. I mean, that's what we become on some level, because I know God hates evil to such a degree that he won't even do it. Well, not evil. I mean, wickedness and sin, right? Evil is another question in a certain sense. Well, like it says, hate evil, Paul. Hate evil and love good. Even though God creates the evil, like I've mentioned many times, he also creates the wicked, which are also something hateful to him. God creates things even that he hates. Even that he hates. And this is one of the beautiful things he does, because I'm one of those things. And, I mean, in my natural state, God has both love and hate for me. There's a certain love. You understand? He loves us as his creatures made in his image. And we have good things about us, right? But there's things about us that he absolutely hates. Things you do that he absolutely hates. If you can't understand that, you don't even understand why you need the cross. Right? I mean, what are you talking about? God hates. He hates evil. It's something that is necessary. Now, what you do with hate against evil, what is evil? Like I said, the taking away, it is harm. Taking away that which is good. Good given and then seeing it taken away, that's not good. I hate that. God hates it too. He takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. But he said, well, then why even make them? Because for their benefit. Because a lot of the wicked sure like being alive. You like having all those whores and the drugs and all that stuff, don't you, buddy? Right, Mr. Senator? You like that lifestyle you're living. You like being rich by not having to work, right? Just by hearing a little whisper about where to put your money, or getting a nice big, whatever. They all get rich somehow, and their job doesn't pay so much. And it's obviously through other little sweetheart things in there and there, whatever. And they pass the laws that sort of govern what corruption looks like. So it's like the whole thing's a mess. I really want to skip ahead, but I can't. We got, treading upon the poor. And like I said, ultimately, they never raise taxes on themselves. The laws are filled with loopholes that allow them to never pay taxes. And who pays for everything? We do. I know, because I'm paying more for everything. I pay, chicken used to be about $1.99 a pound. Now it's like $2.79 a pound, or $2.50 when it goes on sale, $2.29. But when it used to go on sale for like 99 cents or $1.29 or something like that. Frequently. I'm not talking about clearances. I'm talking about just like weekly sale type stuff. All the weekly sales we used to get are nowhere near the way they used to be, even just like 5-6 years ago. And of course, it all occurred suddenly and lastingly with the pandemic, and why? People say, well, they just gouged the prices. Maybe. I mean, they printed a lot of money, but all the existence of that cash, there's just fundamental laws of economics. So when you print a lot of money and there's a greater supply of money, that money's just not worth as much. And especially as fewer and fewer people are seeking dollars, and with putting sanctions on countries, which is war. When you sanction a country, you're making war on them. I mean, I don't know how you see it elsewhere. It's like if someone sanctioned us and wouldn't allow the importation of certain things and wouldn't allow the export, told us what we couldn't do right at our borders. We would call that war. I just get so sick of our, like, we live in a country where we believe all men are created equal and stuff, but the way our country acts in the wider world is if that's just BS. And that's got to stop. And I know it's all the military stuff. Those guys need to be brought to heel. They need to be held accountable. They understand that the civilians control the military in America, not the other effing way around. Sorry about the near profanity. That's what I say. It's like I feel responsible. We got to get it under control. It's not going to happen this week or next year necessarily, but, long term. It's like if God gives us time and talent, we got to do what we got to do. Because like I said, it's fine for me to sit around and write Bible songs all day. It's like, oh, Jesus, 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 we love you. It's like, it's great. But, you see his sentiment. He's not so into the song. The songs are great. God loves the songs. Make a merry melody to the Lord. I love that. But the things you can't do, fiddling while the world burns, singing, it's fine to sing God's praises while the world is burning, so to speak. But only, like, I see that as, like, the final moment. But, like, while you're able to, like, the three Hebrew children in the fiery furnace, they got to the fiery furnace somehow. There was a lot of other stuff that happened to them on the way there where they had to survive and get down to the point where someone was like, all right, do this or die. And they had to say, okay, I guess we die. Or not. We'll see what the Lord will do. They were sort of like, okay, whatever you say. I don't know if we're going to make it or not, but be it known unto you, we're not going to bow down to your idol. You take from him burdens of wheat. Yeah, I can't afford, I don't want to say I can't afford my groceries, but it's like, it pushes you to whatever. It's expensive. It's a lot. It costs a lot more. I just noticed that. You know why? Because I started making a bit more money, and whatever extra I might have gotten, forget it. It's now paying for groceries and all the price of everything else that went up. When I point the finger straight at all that, panicking the herd, wasting, putting everything out of business, all these just things they just did that were just nothing but destructive. And people just let them do it. Because there were not enough people that saw through it quick enough to stand up against it. And like that gives me a lot of pause thinking I see how the mark of the beast is going to go. It's going to be no problem whatsoever, man. People are just going to snap into line. And the apostasy, Christians of this generation, I'll tell you what, the Romans would be absolutely disgusted. The Christians they knew were like the kind of people that would sooner be thrown to the lions than give up going to their little meetings in the tombs or whatever, And in this generation, Christians are people who can't get off the couch to protest against oppression of people in their own country and around the world. Or to do something about the evil you see in the world. Whether it's feeding hungry people, stopping killing people. Like I said, when you see people that proverb's been on my mind so much, we studied a few weeks ago, about when you see people ready to die. Don't tell me later on, I didn't know about it. I didn't see anything happening. When you see people perishing, you can't just do nothing, not just whistling Dixie as I guess the world's burning. It's like, what's on TV tonight? And I know we got to live our lives. We got to do stuff. I got all kinds of things I got to do. I don't want to do it. I got to deal with this. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to be very public about it because I've been scammed. Anyway, so it's like, not that I've lost anything yet, but I've been scammed and taking whatever. It's all right. Everything will be okay. Now it's just time for me to enter fighting mode. Unfortunately, I didn't want to fight that fight. That means the enemy's come against me to distract me again. But he's always got me doing 5 or 6 things at the same time, so don't you worry about that. It's like it's always that way. It just gets harder and harder, and I just get harder and harder too. So that's all right. All right. So they hate him that rebuketh, they abhor him that speak uprightly. Talks about upright things like righteousness, holiness, doing things like that. Oh, we don't want to hear that. We got fornication in the church. It's lovely. We got worse than fornication in the church, and that's lovely. Well, let's call it the equivalent, all right? It's not equivalent, but it's about as wicked. It's definitely, it's no less wicked. I think you know all the rainbow of things I might be thinking of. All right. So again, here we have you take from burdens of wheat. It's connected to their food. They, when you dilute the currency, you hurt the poorest people, and they're barely able to survive. You know what I mean? It's like in a sense of like, and also there's a bit of humor here. I see, maybe not humor, but irony, because you know what I mean. Like they talk about relieving the burdens of the poor, right? And what it's saying here is like you remove from them burdens, right? But not burdens of like high taxes or burdens of like the hard life they live or improvements to the roads or infrastructure or stuff like that. No, they don't remove the burdens that make life harder. They remove the burdens that make life easier. They remove the burden of, well, now you won't have as much food to worry about, right? Now you're going to lose that weight you've been thinking about. Now, that's not such a bad thing. We eat too much in this guy. Actually, I've talked about weight over the years, and I've struggled with weight. And see, I'm more consistently starting to lose weight. And it is a product of eating too much, but also I think of the quality of the calories you take in. You take low quality calories, like say you eat a bunch of there's just like white bread saltine crackers or white bread Wonder Bread or something. Like you eat a bunch of that, you fill up on it. You're not going to stop feeling hungry. Your stomach will fill up and you'll stop eating. But then as soon as that gets out of there, enough room for more food, your body's going to say, we still don't have any nutrients. Please send us some nutrients. And you're going to feel this like, I need to eat. Let me tell you this. When my wife brings me food, I always feel like, she's like, are you ready to eat? I'm like, not quite yet. Now I have another issue because I have a stomach issue a little bit. But I don't feel hungry all the time also. Like I don't feel as many cravings because I'm eating a lot of good regular salads in the morning with different ingredients and hard cheese and stuff I studied up on. I'm eating salads before every meal, small ones, sauerkraut and stuff like that. And the reason I bring that up is because it's not necessarily that you're a glutton. Like gluttonous people in times past had to be rich to be able to afford all the food. And it'd be rich, savory food. But we get all this food that tastes delicious, but is actually not at all nutritious. And the nutrition that they try to jam in there is all chemicals and stuff and in powdered form and all. It's not naturally derived, plant-derived or animal-derived, which when it's processed by those plants and animals, it's more biologically available from what I understand. And I'm not giving advice on nutrition, even though that's not really a doctor thing, oddly enough. Doctors should know more about nutrition. It would help keep you healthy. And a lot of times our weight problems is about the quality of our food. We're just eating garbage and piling garbage on top of garbage, and our body's just packing away all these extra calories, but it's still hungry because it's not getting what it needs. If you get what you need, you may find you crave less of all that other stuff. You crave less extra calories because your body is satisfied. That's just a little bit of advice. I've been walking around this world for a while and trying to figure it out. I was up to 300 pounds at one point. If you look at me now, I'm 230 about. Which for me is like an okay weight. That was like, I weighed about 220 when I was married. So I'm almost at about 21 again, I'm not quite there. But, and the reason I do it is because I want to be available for the Lord to use me. If the end of the world came, you think about it. Like I said, it's like they're going to let me just sit on the computer here. Think that's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be ready for whatever. Like I said, I'm already looking around. I'm like, where are the open mics? Where are the places I need to go? Because I'll go. And if there's no gasoline, I'll walk. In due time, in due course, whatever. Wherever the Lord leads. That's what I'm saying. I want to be ready for that. I don't want to be like, oh boy. Just like I said, when you get to the kingdom of God, you want that to be the first righteous day of your life or the first day you ever tried living right. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the first day of uprightness. We're going to try it on the first day of the resurrection. I'd be embarrassed, man. I don't know. It's like, see how that works out. I don't recommend it. If you've been given time and talent, you're supposed to use it. It's one thing if you believe in Jesus and you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be asked to do a whole lot of stuff, and God bless you, and I hope he receives you, and just like on the guy on the cross, And that's why I say that. I remember someone always mentions how I mentioned that guy on the cross and the simplicity of salvation just because faith alone without works is, dead, yes, But faith is what saves us. And, it's only dead without works if it, faith is born, but then it needs to be fed by our continually walking in it. But of course, if you die, you can't do that. So like that moment of belief, it can be sufficient, especially if the Lord receives us. And that's why I talk about the white throne in such terms, because as fantastical as that story is, as the man on the cross, Jesus saying, "You'll be with me in paradise," as far as like, it is quite a remarkable story, and it's quite, it is a bit, well, it's a unique story. I mean, it is an extreme, someone at the edge of death finding the Lord. And because that extreme exists, I do think that at the extremes, for those whom he deems worthy, there is mercy. So after death, well, at the judgment. At the judgment, it's not like you can improve on your works if you had more life or anything. I mean, it's not like anyone's works are going to amount to anything at the white throne judgment. But on some level, those that love righteousness and fear God, the Lord finds them acceptable. It doesn't mean they're perfect. But, the Lord, he is a very, mercy means he's automatically going to be looking at us on a sort of, I don't want to say sliding scale. I mean, through the eyes of mercy. We're all being looked at through the eyes of mercy. But some people, even though God would be merciful to mankind, there are those for whom, one, there's no mercy given, and two, there's no mercy desired. Not without, they don't have the wisdom to desire his mercy. If they had the wisdom, they would desire his mercy. But they live in defiance of God, thinking him not real. They have built houses of hewn stone, but they shall not dwell in them. Ye have planted pleasant vineyards, but ye shall not drink wine of them. That's funny, because that is that's what I always, not always, but I've taken to bring up that idea which you read in other prophets, such as in Isaiah, where it says, my people will long enjoy the works of their hands. They shall not toil in another, take take the produce from them. They will build houses and inhabit them. They will plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. For they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord. That's speaking of his people Israel. But here the leaders, they've built themselves houses of hewn stone. But they're not going to dwell in them. That is a kind of, that's an evil. You build a house and then someone else comes and takes it from you and you don't get to live in it. That's an evil. But that's the idea that evil will befall you. You may have provided for yourself. You've enriched yourself, you government people. You've enriched yourself, you provided for yourself, but you were not careful to provide for the nation. And you forget that the nation is that which sustains you, not other way around. And when you destroy the basis for your own wealth, you destroy yourself. And they will be destroyed. Where do you think the judgment is going to fall heaviest on those responsible? You betcha. Not that the people don't feel it too, but they're already so down. What's the one oppressor for another? That's what it ends up being like, and people don't care anymore. All right, verse 12. For I know your manifold transgressions, means they have different, they're all different kinds, going all different directions. And your mighty sins, they afflict the just, they take a bribe, they turn aside the poor in the gate from their right. They afflict those who are just and upright, they afflict. They don't want that kind of behavior. And I think about all the people who spend their time trying to save children from abortion. They work so hard at it. They try to be careful to stay within the letter of the law, and maybe hopefully the spirit too. The spirit of the law is wicked and wants to make sure that you can't even, let the thought of maybe I shouldn't do this, suggesting that to a girl who wants to get an abortion, in the spirit of the way they write these things, they want that to be, you're not allowed to in any way influence someone who wants an abortion. That even suggesting to them something might traumatize them or something, some sort of protection of their rights. They also have a right to know other things. But, they go after these people. They especially focus. They used to focus on terrorists. Now they consider anti-abortion activists terrorists. I've never been an activist, but when I feel for them sometimes. I never know exactly where to bestow my efforts. I know people who are very active in that, or especially because they're very concerned about the children. They take a bribe. Why do you think we have endless wars? Because they've all been bought off. Because it's not in our interest to have war in the Middle East. It's not in our interest to have war on the Eurasian continent with Russia. That's not in our interest. That's in the narrow interest of a few people in Washington. Well, a bunch of people in Washington, a bunch of military contractors, and all the money flowing around that stuff. They've got their little, they carefully place their little manufacturing in every critical district in the country, and between the and of course I sort of switched over to the military industrial complex, but also I'm thinking about foreign countries in particular that like to have us wage war and that have bought off our entire Congress and Senate, and that brag. I mean, Netanyahu literally brags about basically owning our Congress. He thinks he owns our Congress, and he does. He does. And he speaks openly of things that sound like genocide to me. It's like, remember what Amalek has done to you, Israel. And then the defense, people like RFK Jr., who I liked, but I will not vote for him, will say things like, they give all these talking points. And I remember hearing about, Israel is the most moral army. They have all these rules of engagement and stuff. At the very first week of the conflict, the defense minister came forward to say he had removed all restraint. And that was also manifest in the way when 3 Israeli prisoners escaped and were shirtless, waving white flags. They were all killed, the third one being hunted down, and while he was speaking in Hebrew, murdered execution style because whatever. Because they're so tunnel visioned on killing these people and mistrust, and they're so brainwashed into thinking them animals and like devious. They're so devious. They're actually speaking our language with our accent. And, have you ever look at sometime at what their children are taught in school about other human beings? It's no different than what the Germans were teaching their kids, really. And it's sort of an irony in it. I remember always thinking there was some sort of ironic thing being done there, and it's almost it's tragically ironic that they would fall to such a thing, because that's not good for people. I don't just mean the victims, I mean the perpetrators. They turn aside the poor from the gate, in the gate from the right. I think about January 6th when all those people that went there to protest lawfully and legally as they had a right to do, but instead they were met with all kinds of government thugs provoking riots, provoking violence, provoking government provocateurs such as Ray Epps telling people to go into the Capitol, and then people being there ready to commit violence in the Senate, and then people motioning them into the doing all these subterfuges and devious tactics to try to entrap people into bait, and most of them were charged with things like trespassing in their own capital. When in the 60s, I've seen photos of I don't think it was the Black Panthers, it was some Black Liberation Movement in the Capitol. They overran the Capitol and they were armed with guns. I think it's shoot people, which is good. On January 6th, they might have been better off to have guns. The cops would have cleared out. But of course, they would have come after him even harder than with gun charges and stuff. Oh, okay, I'll go for the gun. Used to be people understood that there was a certain kind of protesting. Yeah, it interrupts things and it interrupts the government process. It's just absolutely absurd. The right of the people to peaceably assemble They were already interfering with that right as they planned to entrap them and to use that event against those people. Everything that was done around that was so wicked. And it's going to come out, and like I said, there's got to be retroactive penalties for the people who did things. Well, it's got to be looked back. They never want to hold anyone responsible. I don't care if it takes 30 years. We go back and look at it, and just like they did with the Nazi war criminals, people that commit serious offenses against the Constitution from inside government, there has to be serious penalties for that. It should be like if you call up a social media company to censor a post, and it's not illegal content, like something explicitly illegal, like child pornography, illegal sales of contraband, or you know what I mean? Like if you're a government agency and you're talking to Facebook, it's like there should be, what the NSA should be doing is monitoring those people. And when they do something wrong, then that should result in an instant penalty, instant firing, instant whatever. They shouldn't be calling about, did you hear what Paul said in his Bible study the other day? Not that it's all automated and stuff. Not all of it, actually. I know that because we have the call records. I mean, I don't have them personally, but they want to turn, people have rights and they want to take them away. They want to go right in their capital of our city, right in the center of everything. They are there trying to take away our rights. Therefore, the prudent shall keep silence in that time, for it is evil time. The prudent keeps silent. But who is this one rebuking in the gate? I mean, you can be one of the prudent and shut up. I mean, that's all. I mean, that's how I look at the pandemic. Honestly, when I saw the prudence of the people, I hated them. I despised them and their prudence. I despised them and they're like, well, better put the mask on because I need to go grocery shopping. I despise them and they're better get the shot because I don't want to lose my job. I despised. Now, I regret that to some degree. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe overstating that. I don't think I did so in a sinful way. I just more in an intellectual way. Like, that is not the way to behave. I despise that mode of behavior. Because I didn't know anyone personally who was going along with it that I had like this tight relationship to get worked up about. Everyone I knew was like defiant. My whole family went, during the height of it, we went to, my brother got married, my son got married, my brother got married, went down to the courthouse and invaded the place. They were all wearing masks. We weren't wearing masks, but everyone else was. And something like that is so powerful that nobody wanted to say anything about it or try to stand up to it. So we were just way too loud and way too much and way too whatever. I don't know. It's easier in a group, I'll tell you that. Alone is hard. I understand. It's hard to stand up. It's much easier to take a path of prudence. Well, Paul, shouldn't we be prudent? To a degree. To a degree. What do you think Jesus is saying when he says things like, hey, let your light so shine before men, but don't sound a trumpet before you? Be prudent, man. You're right. I mean, there's a prudence because why? Well, what am I trying to accomplish? I want to preach the gospel effectively. So I don't necessarily want to come off as a trumpet blowing blowhard who's a big show, I mean, maybe I'm, whatever, maybe I am a blowhard. But I don't want to, I want to moderate that. I want to moderate that. If I am a blowhard, I need to moderate it. Whatever. If I'm too shy about preaching the truth when it needs to be preached, and like I said, that's how I often say it, preaching the truth when it needs to be preached. A word in season, spoken in season. There's times when these things need to be taken care of, and we got to step up and speak if it's given to us. It's not given to everybody. But the prudent, if you're going to be truly prudent and you can't speak, you got to at least hear and act. You know what I mean? To support those who speak up. That is a better, he's right. It is what people do. They keep silence. Why? Because there's consequences for speaking up. I mean, not yet entirely. But when you see them trying to pick away at our freedom of speech, they want to make a man an offender for a word, as it's written in other places. They want to make it so that you say the wrong thing, you go to jail. I've already heard about it. If you started during the last election, if you were questioning mail-in ballots, which I was just sort of like, I definitely saw problems with it. But I didn't know how far I always thought they sent them out to registered voters only, I assumed. You know, and it was like, not just like a 5 or 6 to every household in America or something. I don't know. But if someone was questioning that, I forget, was it the Department of Homeland Security or the National Security Administration? But that comment would be logged as an attack on our critical infrastructure. And so it's like, yeah, then it becomes like, well, I don't like what the government is doing in this area, right? And then, oh, you're attacking our critical infrastructure. That's a terrorist attack. They want to make criticism of the government a terrorist attack. It's obvious. That's what they want to work towards. They want to make you, when you say, because that way they can deny you all your rights. Now, that is not necessarily a plan, but that is the direction. That is the direction they're pushing things to, where they have a fantasy. Oh, they want to catch you in your words before you do anything. You know what I mean? They want to get you for pre-crime. Say, like, when you talk like that, it's only a matter of time before you start doing things. It's like, well, maybe so, but that's not for you. We have freedom of speech, but they want to turn it away. They want to take it away. And it may seem like, well, they don't want to let people talk. I better keep silence. It's prudent in a sense for your selfish, fleshly concerns, but whatever. I gave my body up as a living sacrifice to the Lord Jesus, so I don't have that luxury. I have to speak. I can't afford to be prudent. Not for my own skin's sake. Not when it comes to the truth. Seek good and not evil. And don't seek harm. Seek to make things better. That's the thing. I try to heal by, I try to fight evil by doing things that push back against it and create good, enlightened minds. But also that, like I said, to attack the ideas. Yes, to wound them. Yes, to do violence against them. Because I know it's only a matter of time. They already watch. They just don't have the things have not deteriorated quite enough yet to where they can just round people up for having the wrong ideas. But when that time comes, they know who I am. And I don't care. Come get me. Come get me. I dare you. I dare you. Like for words, it's one thing for things I did. For things I did, hey, I'm a sinner. I'm a man worthy of punishment, If I've done something wrong, then I deserve it, and whatever. But not when it comes to, I don't mean about the words I said. I mean, if I did something wrong in a word, I offended in a word, then, as long as, if they were true words, because you don't want to give offense in words, because every idle word we will give account of. We don't want to cause people to stumble in our words, except if they stumble at the truth. That in that case, I am not responsible for. If I make someone stumble with a lie, I will answer. You know what I mean? And if I make them stumble with my lying ignorance, I also have to answer. Not quite the same, right? When you don't know what you're doing, you're still responsible, but not as responsible as someone who knows what he's doing. And this is not a controversial point. The scriptures make that clear. The servant who knew his master's will and did it not will receive more stripes than the servant who knew it not. Jesus himself said so. All right. The prudent shall keep silent, for it is an evil time. And in evil time, people become silent. They don't speak up because they're afraid for themselves. And it's unfortunate, but that's the nature of human beings. They look after themselves. Now, what makes a true Christian different is because they've confronted that and they've abandoned themselves. Denied themselves. Because you have to deny yourself to speak the truth in an evil time. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to say, like, okay, even if it means, because they could even you speak the truth and then they find some other thing to get you for. And they'll look for things. I'm sure they do. I mean, they've done it, even to get real criminals. Like Al Capone, they couldn't catch the guy, so they got him his taxes. That's why I was trying to be very careful to do my taxes exactly right. Or at least exactly honestly. Everybody makes mistakes. An honest mistake, I'm not worried about that. I always try to be very thorough. I try to dot all my I's and cross my T's, and as one should, because you don't want to get in trouble. Now, some people say we shouldn't pay on some level, I understand the argument for not paying taxes. My thing is, I don't pay taxes. I do pay taxes, sort of. I file my taxes, and then I don't owe any taxes at the end of that because of my dependents and all that. So it's like the reason I file is to take from the government. And in a sense, and they said, well, you're not taking from the government, you're taking from... Yeah, but it's like... There's all kinds of wheels within wheels. I've paid for many years taxes, and I've also had years where it was the other way around. It's like I'm just fulfilling the law. And if I thought there was something I could effectively do by resisting in that way, I would. But I don't see any effectiveness in me doing that since they have so much more they could come after me for. I don't want to leave myself open by not filing my taxes or something foolish like that because I have so many other vulnerable points. Well, as far as me, I'm talking all the time. And so I don't like to give them a lot of places to grab me, So seek good and not evil. That'll help you too. If we're walking the straight and narrow, the enemy will have very little to get his fingers into. It's an important part. If we want to serve God, I understand. It's like I tell you what, to me, the size of my ministry is an indication of my readiness for it, and that's why it's always been small. Not because I have growing to do. It's not about. Not that I feel like it needs to be big. I always feel like the Lord's ministry is huge. He's doing all kinds of things. Just because I serve a few people, what's wrong with that? It is, it's like, it's necessary. So what if it's just some people? It's like everybody is important to the Lord. I'm just one person. I think I'm important. Well, aren't these 10, 20 people also very important to the Lord? Yes, they are. To me, it's like, I just like being able to say the things. And the fact that anyone at all gets to hear me say it, even if it was just my wife who's always there, that's fine with me. I just want to tell somebody else. Seek good and not evil that you may live. Don't seek to do harm. God created evil, but that's not what we should be in the business of. You know what I mean? The government has the power sometimes to bring about evil, meaning to take away the freedoms of people when they commit such things as society has determined that makes them that they cannot participate in society anymore. And I believe in that, but that is not for individuals to just take up on their own. And God has instituted powers for that. And those are the powers also that sometimes we have to resist when they are corrupted by evil men. And that's part of it. It's like, there's a give and a take. There's a hate and a love. There's an obey. As far as when it comes to human authorities and stuff, there's an obey. But there's also a question. There's also a resist. And even throw off. Because the evil must be thrown off. I throw off evil in my life. How can I not throw it off in the world around me, wherever I see it, that it comes within my grasp? Just with it, whatever my grasp happens to be. For me, that's often, I don't know. I'm taking steps. I'm going to be talking in the future about things that I'm actually doing to combat that I think are things that are, little effective things that poor people can do to make a difference. You know what I mean? Yeah, just for example, like one of the things, I haven't started doing it yet, but I wanted to support a certain Dr. Epstein's feedthewatchdogs.org that is watching Google, watching what they're up to. You can see that change the webpage. Let me put this here. Where's my normal? There we go. Nice bright oracles of God. All right. Hate the evil, love the good, establish judgment in the gate. The gate is supposed to be the place of judgment. The public place, the public square. Often we talk about freedom of speech, it is the public square. That is how, in fact, that was what the social media companies claimed they were about being that new public square. It was more like a bulletin board in the public square than it was like a newspaper run out of, downtown. But now they're kind of taking it more like, we want to be more like a newspaper run out of downtown. Well, what about the public square? Well, it'll be a new one, I'll tell you that. That's the problem, is the more they squeeze, the more everyone slips out of their fingers and goes somewhere else. And they'll just destroy themselves because no one wants to live under their tyranny. I mean, a few people may want to, but nobody sensible does, and there's a lot of sensible people. Maybe not a majority, but there's still a lot. It doesn't take a majority entirely. There's such a thing as the rights of the minority. It doesn't matter if everyone else wants to deny us our freedom of speech. If everyone else wants to deny us the right to bear arms. Those are fundamental rights. That's why whenever I hear the argument, how many kids have to die before you guys curtail the gun rights? It's like, I don't care how many kids die. You understand? That's why we send kids to war. To protect our rights. Like the right to own a weapon. And I don't care how many kids die at any number of elementary schools from crazy people that are created by the medical establishment and created by the schools themselves, who come in there all fueled with rage and chemicals to kill. The gun doesn't do that to them, and neither does it cause all the crime in the inner city. But they want to take away our right. Well, the heck with that. No, the hell with that. This is a Bible study. That's one I get. I get to say to hell with whatever the Lord pleases. And that's what I please. So I could have said I please. When you believe in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. And that I always spoke very loudly to me only in the past few years when I realized when I stood before the Lord and I received the Holy Spirit, I asked him, Lord, grant me my heart's desire. Later I prayed, Lord, grant me your heart's desire. But it was funny that he answered that prayer. If you believe in me and my words about, because that's a song I did years ago, and over and over in my head. John 15. You shall ask what you will. It's such an amazing thing. It's like, really? Well, I'll ask what I want? Yeah. But it's all tied up in that believe in me and have my words abide in you. And the Lord has definitely made his words to abide in me. And that's why I don't feel any compunction saying that. I mean, I feel a little compunction because humility sort of dictates, even if it's, I'm not that humble. I'm just always try to, I don't want to be falsely humble. There's a certain natural humility that some people have or have not, right? But then there's also the part I got to chastise myself to keep myself humble, right? When you have good things, you get blessings. It's easy to start feeling really good about yourself. You don't want to, you want to feel bad about yourself, but you want to have a realistic amount of pleasure in the work of your hands that also acknowledges the Lord and also is mindful of other people. Yeah. To do good to people and not evil, to build up and not break down, to plant and not to destroy, to establish judgment. People say, judge not to be beaten. We got to have judgment in the world. The people do things that it's got to be judged. I don't really like being in the position of judgment, but there's a necessity of it. And it's not, again, judge not in the sense of condemn, judge not in the sense of make it up yourself, but that we know that the judgment of God is sure concerning them which do such things. God has already said what his judgment is. All it means is you shouldn't judge. I mean, it's like, he didn't say, oh, throw out all of God's judgment. No, he's saying, no, you don't judge. You don't say, I will render unto every man according to his work. Shut up and sit down and listen. You don't know what you're doing. In order to establish judgment, you got to know the word of the Lord. And that's true. That's why we have such awful people in government now, because they don't fear God. They probably never even read the Bible. They don't have any real true moral sense, any sense of obligation to the infinite God, whose eyes see, or at least to live in a society where most people think that, and they're pretty terrified and they got to keep their evil deeds undercover. When a society fails to hate evil and starts to celebrate and love evil, when I did my video, Say Gay, with the devil coming out and singing Say Gay, and I thought that was hilariously ironic and funny, and also it had pointed. and all these things. And literally a couple of weeks later, they were doing that. It was like Satan dancing and with kids and drag queens reading the children's and some stuff like that. And I was like, I don't even know what to say now. I thought, it's like that. It rendered, like I said, you can't do satire anymore. Like even the Ukraine war sign. I mean, they boldly come out and say, yeah, it's a proxy war. We're using other people we're killing other people, and we're sending them our weapons, and they can die, and your kids won't die. Isn't that great? Yeah, I don't want my kids to die. But I want other kids to die stupidly and uselessly in a war they can't win, and we're never going to win. A nation of what are they, like 45 million or so? Isn't going to go to war with a 160 million nation and win. And also, it's like, who is that? Doesn't everyone know that the Russian steppes are the graveyards of all history's arrogant, stupid armies? So many have died on those godforsaken plains. All right. So seek good, not the evil, you may live. Oh, don't you want to live? I want to live. And then, it goes, and again, well, we're all going to die. Who cares? No, it matters because it is given to men once to die and after the judgment. You don't get a do-over. You don't get oh, shoot, that was the first one. All right, next time, now I get it. Okay, I'll follow the Lord this time. No, it's a one-shot thing. And like I said, if in that thing you never heard of Jesus, but you loved righteousness and feared whatever God that was somewhat in line, I'm not saying that's salvation. I'm saying, the Lord Jesus will see to such things and judge them. I don't judge, but those that love good, some people do. That's why there are people in societies not blind. They're all just like given over to sin and evil. I mean, they are as much as we are. They're not more wicked than we are. And some of them in their own religion, they have ideas of holiness that they seek, and it's similar because anyone seeking the ultimate is going to kind of get, even if you're not going to hit the mark of Christ perfectly, but our conscience, because it is created in God's image, should give us some idea of which direction to head. And those that heed that is an evidence to me of God's favor. When they hear that, when they hear the natural, the natural things that Paul talked about, revealing his eternal power and Godhead, like in a nameless form, in a sense of like there is an ultimate being or whatever, or truth even. Now, I don't preach that. I preach Jesus. But like I said, what I glean from the scriptures is always there's this warmth of God towards those outside the understanding that he has given us, who nevertheless seek glory and honor and such things. I mean, honorable glory, let's put it that way. Honorable glory is very different than just seeking glory. Paul says, talking about seeking glory, we do seek glory who seek Jesus. I mean, if you understand, that's what you're looking for. Seek good, not evil. Some people actually seek out evil, to bring about evil in the world. Sometimes they think they're doing good, but they're heedless of the evil they do. That's another evil in the world. And it's just, people want to do good, but they don't take responsibility for it. But the worst thing, one of the worst things, is when people claim to be doing good, but it's just a cloak for doing evil. I'm going to say something because about the way I got screwed over recently, and there I used a bit of a profane term. Just as a warning, I thought about it. I wasn't saying that. I'm like, I'm going to say something. Be very aware. Last year I was called by solar panel people, and I've been interested in solar panels because I thought about future power issues. If power goes out, if there's a tribulation or trouble, just any kind of trouble, right? I've got a backup generator. I've got other things. And I was considering, maybe another power source. But I never could afford. A couple of years ago, I talked to someone and what a size I would need, and they told me the cost, and I'm like, I can't do that. And then these other people call me, and they're like, oh, well, there's this program, and tax rebates. Now, they go through, and they put you through this sales pitch where they tell you if you buy the system, this is how much money you're going to get back, and then you can give it to the thing and reduce your payments, and then they give you all this calculation of what your final numbers are going to be. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Because the tax refunds on which they do those calculations are non-refundable. And unless you get on your horse and check into it right away and don't presume that someone is telling you the truth about, because I'd heard there was rebates, you know what I mean? And people were talking about rebates. But the thing is, you have to these rebates only make sense if you have a lot of money and you've paid a lot of taxes. If you've paid a lot of taxes into it, they'll give you the money back. If you owe a lot of taxes, well, you just won't have to pay. Well, that's not the way they sold it to me. They sold it to me as you'll get this, and it was quite a sum of money. It was about 50% of the value of the entire installation. I had it installed, and then they still haven't completed the installation almost a year later. And they don't return my calls anymore, and I think it's because everyone who they sold it to last year is discovering that these tax rebates are non-refundable. And the salespeople who went around making these sales pitch based on these non-refundable tax claims were breaking the law and lying explicitly. So there's a scam going around. Certainly in Illinois, the company's name was Revolution Solar. And also they're associated with something called the Solar Institute. They don't return my calls anymore. I'm going to be talking to their lender. I'm going to be going into my legal mode because I didn't exactly study to be a lawyer, but I had the chops. And I've done a lot of legal work on my own. So they've definitely done the wrong thing. But that is a significant blow to me financially because I can't afford that loan. They had me take out a loan. I thought I'd be paying 50% of the loan, but I'm going to be paying 100%, or so they think. You know, we'll get them. If there's anything left of them, because I'm wondering if, like, how many people did they screw over? But, you know, I also thought, well, you know, maybe this year I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'll need that tax rebate. And they didn't finish it last year like they were should. You're not even supposed to take the tax rebate till it's finished. So I may have to wait till next year. Maybe this year I'll make lots of money and that'll be useful. Somehow, I'm not going to say I doubt it. I just, you know, nothing's ever quite gone like that for me. So we'll see. Anyways, let's see. But I thought, well, just as a warning, like, be careful. These tax rebates on solar panels are not refundable unless you have overpaid your taxes, unless you have, unless you owe a lot of taxes. They are useless to you. They are useless to you. And anyone who sells you on something other than that is taking you for a ride. Okay, I just got taken for that ride because I needed the money. I was going to use it to pay off my mortgage. So now I'm going to have to deal with the problems I was trying to deal with. Anyways. That's a boring end to a great Bible study, but it is past the 1 hour mark, and I only really promise an hour of studying. Everything else is a bonus. So let's see. It may be that the Lord will be gracious unto the remnant of Joseph. We didn't really discuss that point, but it was a contingency that did not come to pass. I don't think, you know, if anyone tuned out as I was talking, I think people might have found that little story interesting because, like I said, if you're thinking about going solar, make sure you do so. They are very highly recommended by the state of Illinois, and or they said they were. I guess I don't know. I allowed it was because it was a good offer, and I would say, is it greed? Well, I have a problem. You know, I have a balloon payment in 7 years due because I took off during COVID from paying my mortgage. So I owe a whole year's worth of mortgage at the end of my thing. And I was trying to alleviate that for myself and perhaps maybe slightly reduce my bills. But that is not what's happening. In fact, I've been stricken with now my bills will go up by $1,000 a month in a couple months. But or so they think, I guess, or that's what they've planned for me. I'm going to pay for that, and they ran away with the money. So they pumped the creditors. They got the money out of them from the loans, and then they conned me, and then they got my signature. But that was months ago. Whatever, we'll fix them. I know lots of maneuvers. Not lots of maneuvers. I got whatever. I'll take care of it. Anyways, I say that I wouldn't want to talk about my personal matters, except that I thought I want to warn people. I want to warn people especially about that tax rebate. Do not buy solar panels on the basis of a tax rebate without talking to a tax professional or someone who really knows about your taxes. Okay. I do my own taxes, so I tended to be a little bit overconfident in that. I had heard good things about people getting big rebates. It threw me off because he talked about it the whole time as if they were refundable rebates. And even though I told him how much money I made, I told him how much my house was worth, I told him all this information, he continued to do the sales pitch. Which is completely unethical, of course. Being, like I said, these scams can come in the form of things that are backed up by things that seem to be legit, because it is a legitimate business. They do stuff. But like in the midst of that, I don't know if they know, but they got people conning people to make these sales. So be very careful out there. I'm a smart guy, but even smart people fall into stupid mistakes, and that's a warning for all of us, okay? We'll pick up at verse 16 tomorrow, Lord willing, and I pray that he is, and I'll be back again then. Until next time, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
And he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore his arm brought salvation to him, and his righteousness, it sustained him. For he put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head. And he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and was clad with zeal as a cloak. According to their deeds will he repay, fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. To the islands he will repay recompense, so shall they fear the name of the Lord. From the west in his glory, from the rising of the sun, when the enemy